Welcome to Nomad Media, Automotive Tales, where we tell vehicle stories, a little bit of history, and some unique and personal experiences. Let's get right into it. All right, welcome back, guys. Today we have Danny Dunson with his 1966 Dodge Coronet 440. Danny, what can you tell us about this car? I know you want to start off with this 440, and I never heard that until you said it. And hell, I've worked on this car before. This is a nice car, and I didn't even know it was called a 440. What do you got to tell us about that, man?
Well, it was a Dodge and Chrysler thing. You know, they still have a Chrysler 300.
Yep.
And in the older days, some of the Darts and Cignas on the Plymouths and all that, they had a number designated in the series, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. So hence the 440. It's technically a Coronet 440. Has nothing to do with the motor inside. There just happens to be a 440 engine, but there's no correlation between the two.
And that's kind of one of the things that caught me off guard when you told me that too, because I was thinking, I'm like, I've worked on this car. It doesn't have a 440 under the hood, or am I just dumb? But no, okay, you clarified that for me. I'm glad you did.
Yeah, but that confuses a lot of people when you say that and say that 440. Everybody goes to the motor. Oh, that's a 440 in that thing. I bet it hauls.
No, a little bit smaller than that.
Yeah. Yep, it's just a 318. But the neat thing about this 318, this is the poly motor, and the difference is it has a wider head. In the V, it's a bigger block. This block actually, now I'm no mechanic and you know that, but this block could actually be bored out and made into a 426.
420. Okay, so this is kind of the first part of a Hemi then, which
yes.
Which leads into your semi-Hemi.
Yeah, that also. Yeah, I call it the semi-Hemi. That has to do with the type heads that are on it. Mm-hmm. They are basically a hemispherical type, but only halfway. So thus I call it the semi-Hemi. It was kind of like halfway in it. They already had a Hemi when this came out.
Well, man,
in about 10 years.
Man, you say that about not knowing much about it, but like, dude, you know more than a lot of people do. I mean, you might not be the best, you might not be the world's greatest mechanic or anything, but you take the time to learn what you can about the engines, and you do most of the work yourself on your cars. Like, I know you're working on another car right now. We'll leave it to another time, but I know you're working on another car now, and I know that you're digging into that engine as much as you think is reasonable, because you were talking to me about it the other night. So I know that, but don't sell yourself short, man, because everybody starts somewhere, and I mean, you're willing to do it, unlike a lot of people. So,
well, I tell people that I'm just a parts changer. I have a hard time figuring out what causes things sometimes to do things, but if you tell me what's wrong, I can replace it.
Well, that's why it's good to ask questions, though.
Yeah.
If you don't ask questions, then are you really learning anything? But well, anyways, let's move right into what made you want a Dodge Coronet? What made this car Danny Dunson's car?
Well, there's a couple of things in that. My sister had a '64 Coronet 440, also a 318 poly car. It would have had the typewriter transmission, is what I call it. It's push button.
Okay, and that would have been on the left-hand side too, right?
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Right. As did my Barracuda that we talked about. But I had always loved the body style of it. This obviously is was the basis for a Super B, hence the name Wannabe that's on the back. And we can talk about that, but I've always loved that body style. That was the era of the muscle cars that I grew up in, and I really liked them. when we had the Barracuda, I had joined some of the online things with Facebook and developed a friendship with a guy who had the Plymouth version of this. He had the Belvedere 2, two-door, beautiful car, red on red, red interior, and he had rebuilt that thing from top to bottom. He had lost both a son and a wife, and that became his therapy. Is when he would come in from work, he would work on his vehicle. He would tear them completely down, rebuild it, put it back together. And he sold that car for what I felt like was next to nothing. And I didn't know that it was for sale, or I'd have had it.
Right.
But we decided that the Barracuda had more needing it than what we wanted to put into it. But we still wanted another car. And so that's what set me on the quest of something. I wanted either the Plymouth or the Dodge version of what he had.
Okay.
And so we watched the market. We traveled. I went into Tennessee 2 or 3 times, Mississippi, and so forth. And while we were looking, this car came up, and it was in Mobile. The other cars that I was looking at were maybe halfway done or something. Maybe they had the body done but didn't have a motor in it, or it just had a whole lot to do. And at that point, I didn't think that I was willing to do what I'm actually doing on the other car now.
Right.
So, anyway, that became a quest. So we go down, and the car was actually in Theodore, which is just past Mobile, going towards Mississippi, going over towards Gulfport from coming out of Mobile. The car had been in one family all its life, was purchased brand new at Pritchard Motor Company, just Pritchard's north of Mobile, for those that aren't familiar, small town. And had basically spent its life in Mobile. The man that I bought it from did put this paint job on it. I have had some touch-ups done. I've actually this past year had the 2 sides redone a little bit because we had some bubbling and so forth, and I wanted to get those taken care of. But he redid the interior, and the interior is stitched like the stock would have come. However, it would have come with vinyl. And this being a Mobile car, vinyl and sticky Alabama weather does not get along.
Kind of just stick to the seat.
Yeah, you stick to the seat and can't get out of it.
That's something for to just get into your mind there. let's really make the viewers cringe a little bit.
Yeah, it just a real hot vinyl seat. Being down there where it's hot all the time, pretty much. So when he had kind of worn it out a little bit, he had it done with a cloth type, but it's a heavy cloth type, and he had it stitched identical, to the vinyl. Yeah. And so hence it looks the same. Yeah.
Same pattern, just different material. So okay.
Exactly, same pattern, different material.
Which is probably a godsend.
Yeah. And it's about ready. I need to have, I've got a little bit of dry rot on 2 different places on the front seat, so it's fixing to go in for that before too long to have that redone.
Well, it is a good driver quality car still, even with the little bit of stuff it needs. Like I said, I've driven it around when I was working on it with you, for you, however you want to say that.
Yeah.
I've driven it around. I love driving it around, and it's one of those things. I don't think that people care that much that are outside of the show community, because when I drove it around, trying to diagnose some stuff, I don't know if I told you or not, but I got a ton of looks, kind of like what we had up here at the stoplight a minute ago. People want to talk to me about the car. I'm like, it's not mine. I can't. I don't know anything about it. It's a wannabe. It's a wannabe. And I'm a wannabe owner. So
yeah.
But I mean, I'm a legitimate wannabe owner. This is the wannabe.
Yeah.
But I don't own it.
There you go. Well, talking about the color, we name our vehicles at the at our house, and my truck is being the black Ram. It's blackjack, and I said, well, Laura, what do you want to name this thing? And she says, well, it's Ruby Red. Let's name her Ruby. So that's where we started. And I said, yeah, but she needs a last name, I think. And I said, I've always wanted a Super Bee, and I just can't afford to buy one. I said, but this is what it started from. This is the body that became, 2 years later, became the first Super Bee and this, off this platform.
So you bring that up too. You said earlier about how this was the body style you really liked and stuff. I get to thinking about myself because, I have the B body as well. This is a B body if I'm not mistaken. And this B body for me, just personally, it's not my cup of tea, but each person is their own person, and everybody has their own likes. But you look at the B body here, and like I said, I didn't know this was a B body for the longest time, and then I'm like, oh wait, it is a B body. Well, that's, if you're not familiar with what I'm saying here, B body is the same thing as the 68 to 70 Roadrunners, the second generation Chargers like I have. That's the body style that everybody wants. But then you get to this one, it's the same body. It's like, it's different styling, of course, but hey, that was something new to me. So
yeah, it's just the change from year to year is the difference in it. But this is the platform that the Super Bee came from, and actually the same thing that the Charger came from.
And Super Bee is same body as the Charger. So
yeah. So they're all related, and that got me close. The guy that I was talking about that had the red on red, he has since passed, but a lot of people know Paul Carr if they're on any of the Mopar things. He's redone a number of vehicles and so forth, and he was from the Knoxville area.
Okay.
I forget the small town. It was a smaller sub of city of near Knoxville, but he's originally from Alabama, and so we had made a good connection. But he came down with cancer and has since passed. But his brother is on there, and he and I have become good friends as well.
Okay, and you were telling me here about you after you bought this car, you were driving around one day and you actually had a run-in with somebody related to the original owner. Like, can you tell us about that?
Yes, we were preparing to go to the Mopars by the lake in Coleman a couple of years ago, and I stopped going up the interstate to get gas. And while I was sitting there pumping gas, a man walks up out of nowhere, and I thought he was just going to compliment the car or something like that, or ask what it was or whatever. And he leads off with, you bought that car in Mobile, didn't you? And, it caught me by surprise, him saying that. I said, as a matter of fact, yeah, Theodore, Alabama. And he says, yeah, you bought that from my brother, I believe. It turned out this guy was a trucker who lived over in Mississippi, but he knew his brother's car, and I think maybe he'd driven it or whatever at some point. But he recognized that car, and just by coincidence,
Yep.
He had stopped at the same truck stop.
It's amazing how that happens from time to time. It's unbelievable.
It is.
Unbelievable.
Well, one of the cool things about the car, the color is real attractive to a lot of people, and it's an eye catcher.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
Everywhere I go, people will compliment, and the color becomes the first compliment on the car. A lot of folks have no clue what it is, but that's a pretty color. That's a pretty color. I love, Actually, the color is basically the color it came. It has been tweaked just a little bit, but not so much. If you look inside the door jambs and under the hood, you'll see the original color. And this just has a little bit more metal flake in it and just a little lightness to it. It's a little lighter than the original, but not so much that most people would even notice.
Right. And I'm hoping that this comes up really well on the camera too, So if not, you'll have pictures in right here. So even if.
Yeah. it's an eye catcher, and like you said, everywhere I go, people will compliment that, and it oftentimes leads to good conversation, which is one of the things I like about the old cars.
Yeah.
My wife and I had gone to pick up our groceries one time at Walmart. They had actually sent it to the wrong store when she did it online. So we were going to a different store, and I didn't know where to park. But it was a Friday night, and I said, well, we'll just go on over there, pick up our groceries, and go out to eat and everything. And I said, let's take Ruby, and since it's date night. And so we pull up in the Walmart parking lot, and I passed by the door looking for the area where we needed to park, to get our pre-done groceries. And this man's coming out with his cart, and he's already got all his groceries and pushing his cart, but he sees this car. And I kind of noticed him then as he was looking, but I'm trying to figure out where I need to go to park. And so I kind of make a circle all around this parking lot looking for, the pickup area. And when I finally found it and parked, here comes this guy. He's following me all over this thing. And I'm thinking, I got my gun with me. It just kind of, felt weird that he was following me like that. And he walked up, he said, I didn't think you'd ever stop and park. And my wife just kind of looked at me, and she knew this was fixing to be a conversation. She didn't even bother to get out of the car. She just sat there and started reading. But this man had a Coronet 440, way back when. He was an older gentleman. And he had one, and he said, I just had to look at it. He said, I love that car. I wished I had mine back, back in the day and so forth. And he and I stood there probably for 45 minutes before we ever went in to get groceries. And, if he had any ice cream, it was melted, I guarantee you.
Oh, goodness. Hopefully he didn't get anything out of the freezer section.
Yeah.
Hopefully not.
But yeah, it gets a lot of looks.
Okay.
It's a neat car.
Yeah. So, do you have any car show stories? Anything worth telling there? Maybe like you winning awards, or you got any stories with car shows?
Well, got one. The very first show we put this car in, I didn't realize how much of a show it was. We went to the Music City Mopars thing that first year, and I didn't know anything about car shows. So I had no idea what I was going for. I mean, other than just putting the car out there and having a good time. And so
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, we decided we were going to trailer the car up there. And so I loaded it up. I didn't even clean it up until I got up there. We stayed in the hotel the night before. I went to a little quickie car wash thing down the street and hosed it off and put it in the car show. And lo and behold, we got third place in class.
Oh, wow.
Up there, and I didn't know what I was doing. People came by and said, hey, you got stuff in your trunk, you need to get all that out. And I said, what do you mean? They said, well, they inspect your trunk. Really? And it was full. So I'm throwing stuff out, and trying to get it cleaned up and everything. But I had no idea, about cleaning up cars, what to have in it or not have in it or own it, not, you know what I'm saying.
I bet you at that time you didn't have your board either, which I'm going to show that right here, right now. So
yeah, we didn't have the board at all. Like I said, I just had a car.
Now he's a professional car shower. Just like me.
Yeah, no.
Everybody knows that's a lie.
I'm far from that. But no, the car had, it's won a time or two with those kind of little things. Mostly, I'm one of those that gets the participants plaque or something like that.
Hey, well, that's what I aim for, is the participation. I'm like, I don't care if I win or not. Like,
yeah,
it'd be nice every now. I think I've tried one time, and I came in second, and I was like, never again. Like, that was way too much effort to get second place. I'm like,
well, this car for me is to have fun. My wife and I enjoy it. We use the car as a method to make friends.
Yeah.
And through our car club, which is how you and I met through the BMOC.
Pull down your shirt a little bit.
Oh yeah,
too,
we got.
if that's, I don't know if that's visible on there, but I'll take a picture of it just
Okay.
so, you know, but yeah.
Well, if you want one of these, I can arrange that for you.
I'll link it in the description.
But anyway, we use this as a vehicle to get out and meet people. My dad was a Mopar guy. Laura's dad was a Mopar guy. And that's how we kind of, settled here. Everything that we own is Mopar. Hadn't always been that way. I've had a little bit of everything, but I keep coming back to my Mopars. That's where I grew up, and I've always been a Richard Petty fan, and that kind of, fostered that, when he was racing, and most of that time was spent, in a Mopar, and so.
Yep, and as long as you don't mind, I'll mention here, it's like if you haven't watched episode 18 at this point, link is in the description if you want to see what Richard's Petty car was.
There you go.
Just plug that one a little bit for our buddy Jerry, which I don't think you met him yet, but I'm gonna plug his just a little bit. So since you mentioned Richard Petty, so sorry.
No, that's okay. Listen, again, it's all about the people I've met. It's how you and I met.
Yep.
And made some good friends through our car club, but also going to these shows. People that I see, at different shows almost every time, that I really wouldn't know otherwise, but have become friends. So, we love that part of this game and what we're doing. It's challenging, and it's fun, and hence, that's why I've got the other project. And I know we're not getting into that today, but it gave me the desire to want to do a project and do it on my own.
We have to keep everybody, when's Danny coming back on, for that follow-up project. So
there you go. Well, hopefully we'll, maybe by next season, we'll have it in some sort of shape where we can show it somehow or another.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing on the car shows too. We're talking about it here, like, you didn't know what you're doing going in. You do it just for fun, meeting people and stuff. I don't show my cars to win. I show my cars just to have fun. Like, I go out to have fun. I don't care about winning the trophies personally. I'm more about, like, I love the cars. I love seeing them. Like, I know you drive this to a lot of car shows. You said you trailered it to that one in Tennessee, which is more understandable. But I'll grill you for it. You need to drive your car. But like, but like, that's also like, I understand some people are there for showing. They want to win a trophy. Like, cars can be as competitive as you want. Like, it can be a game. It can be for fun. Just whatever you want to do, whatever your cup of tea is, just do it. I've had plenty of people out here. Like, if y'all have watched any of the other episodes, which I'm not going to plug any of them on this one, but like if you watch any other episodes, each person has something else to tell, like why they do what they do, why they love what they love. It's like, it's such a wide spectrum of ideas and stuff on the car shows, like at car shows with these. Why are you in this car? Why do you want that car? What makes this car special? Which, that's the whole point of Automotive Tales, to tell what makes it special to each person. But man, I know you take your grandson around too. Like, what does he think on it?
Well, he's not real big into cars yet. He's not quite, well, he just turned 10.
Yeah.
But he's getting a little more interested in it. He and I went to one of the shows up in Talladega, and we walked around, and I was trying to teach him a little bit about that. We went through the museum. And
is this the one just a few months back?
Yes.
Like this year?
Yes.
Linked in the description.
There you go. Yes, he had a good time up there, and we showed him the even in there where they had the racing go-karts and all that kind of stuff. So he's beginning to develop maybe a little bit of interest. His dad, my son is all into vehicles, and he's a little more Chevy than I am, but he does drive a Ram, and he helps me with this one as he's helping me some on the project car.
Yeah.
But it's a family thing, and I enjoy having the family. Like I say, it's Laura and I. I say all the time, this is a driving car. We bought it to have fun going on our date nights. We go out every Friday night, And a lot of times we take this car just, for the old nostalgic view of it all. And again, it's just a lot of fun. We roll the windows down and haul down the highway, with the wind blowing and the radio up, and just enjoy it. I've always said it's a driver, it's not a show car. Some people have, the trailer queens.
I'm going to stop you there. Anyone would die to have this to make it a show car. All right, it's like I say, people go to shows for different reasons, and your classification of a show car just shows that you're thinking about it a little off. You're just a little off. Like, no, this is a show. People would die to have this show car. So it is a show car. Don't ever sell the car short. Like whatever your style.
Well, it is nice. And one of the nicer cars that I've had like this. But some folks have these things that are so perfected. You're afraid to touch it. Or enjoy it. They're more museum pieces as opposed to enjoyment pieces to me. I mean, that's my click on it. I like all kind of cars, and it doesn't have to be Mopar. I've enjoyed a lot of things, but I'm going to enjoy this car, and until I get the other one done, and it may take over for this one. In that case, this may be Laura's car.
Well, I was about to say, that's when this goes to your grandson, right? Let me just help him out there a little bit. Hey, you got a grandson here. You should be around 16 or getting closer to that age. By that time.
By that time, it might be his car. Who knows?
Well, I'm sure that he loves riding around with Grandpa. I'm sure he loves riding around with Grandpa and Miss Ruby. Miss Ruby wannabe. I'm sure he loves it. I'm sure he gets a kick out of the wannabe if he understands it, or at least when he does understand it, he's going to get a kick out of it. He's going to go, that's so funny. And then the semi-hemi, all of it. This car is just great. It's got those small touches that make a car just fun. Yeah. Like fun to look at, fun to get the stories on and things. And with that though, hey.
The wannabe stripe that you mentioned.
Yeah.
I wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, go for it.
That wannabe stripe, I wanted a stripe on this car like a Super B might have, but I didn't want to put a Super B on here because everybody would be coming up and saying, well, that's not supposed to be on that car. They didn't have it, that sort of thing. So I thought that's where the wannabe came up. I've always wanted one. I can't afford one, but this one wants to be one. And I had one of our friends and members do me the stripes to wannabe. And the fun thing about that is watching people smile when I'm sitting at a show or a cruise in, and they're walking around the car, and then they see that stripe and expecting the Super B and see wannabe, and then the smile comes up, and they'll look at me and want an explanation. So that's just another thing that brings up the friendship with people and conversation.
It's definitely a conversation piece, man.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, let's get into hearing this car run if you're ready to get it fired on up. All right.
Shoot, let's fire it up.
All right, let's get right into it. So there you have it. That's Danny Dunson's 1966 Dodge Coronet 440. Man, this is such a cool car. Like, I've worked on it, I've driven it around, you know, I've had my time with it. Like, you know, I've enjoyed your car just as much, like, not as long as you, but I've enjoyed it the little bit that I have been able to drive it around and getting to know you, going to car shows with you. The wannabe is just, it is amazing. It is amazing. It took me forever to actually notice that, but it was like, you know, I love that about it though. It's just a great car. Thanks for giving me some of your time to talk to me and everything about it, you know, telling your story and the stuff that is important to you and important about this car. Is there anything that you would like to say to anyone that may be watching out there?
Well, I know these days kids are more into electronics and all that kind of stuff, but the earlier you get a kid started in cars, the better it'll be. You know, sometimes I wonder what's going to happen with cars like ours, you know, in the future. That's why I was tickled meeting you. You know, you're a good bit younger than me.
I'm a good bit younger than most people at Mopar shows.
But my wife and I have had that conversation because, you know, it tends to be the older people who are digging the muscle cars, but there are the young. But my love for cars started when I was like first grade. You know, when I would go out and buy one of those AMT model cars, and I painted all the little pieces and glued them together, even in first grade.
Yep.
And my sister used to be amazed because I knew every car on the road. You know, even as a little kid, I could identify them.
Yep.
And it's just been there all my life. I've enjoyed them. My son learned in an early age. I was working on one of my vehicles, you know, and he had his little plastic tools. I sat him right beside me, and he thought he was working on that car too. Now I go to him for help, where he used to come to me. So get the kids involved. I think this is a great thing to do, and you get your kids, your grandkids. Like I'm working on my grandson now to try to make a car buff out of him.
Yep.
But it's just a great thing to do with people and with family.
I agree, man. And with that, be sure that you do what he just said. Like, if you like cars, you're watching these stories, show these stories to your kids, show them to your grandkids, get them interested in cars. Maybe they'll see something like the wannabe that gets their engine running, you know.
There you go.
And then, you know, we got another car guy, and hopefully we can keep the hobby going for the next 100 years.
There you go.
You know, thanks for working with me, man.
Yes,
You know,
indeed.
and
thanks for having me.
With that, we'll see you in the next one. Peace.
I'll see you at the next car show, okay?
There you have it, folks. Be sure you like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.